Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Martine, and if you're new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical insights, and I focus on both relationship and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to hear more content from me, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell to see when I will post a new video. And also, if you're interested in a personal consultation, I do consultations on a wide variety of subjects. Please check out the video description. I will leave the information there. Thank you. And today's video is going to be in continuation with the series that I started about a month ago on nakshatras and how they affect your potential romantic partner or your spouse archetype based on your natal chart. Before I get into the actual descriptions, first of all, I apologize for taking so long to make the second video. I've only made the sun-dominated nakshatras so far, and I will link that video in the description. And also, if you are interested to find out if this video applies to you or what nakshatras apply to your spouse archetype, please check out the video description. I will leave a link there to the video that I made about how to figure out which nakshatras affect your spouse archetype. Aside from that, I apologize, like I said, for taking so long, but this video, I wanted it to be well documented, and it is pretty time consuming, even though it probably doesn't look like much, but yeah, so I had to do some research and stuff, and I wanted it to be as thorough as I can make it, but yet as concise as well. And also, this, you can use this video to check out your own nakshatras, because it is mostly focused on the spouse, and I do plan on, at some point in the distant future, making more in-depth videos about each nakshatra. You can also use these as, general guidelines to figure out basic personality traits based on your own nakshatras, especially if the moon, the ascendant, or the sun nakshatra falls in one of these nakshatras, then these traits will also apply to you. So you can check out these videos for that as well. And that's just what I wanted to say. And so, starting with the general description for the moon-dominated nakshatras. I wanted to make a little bit of an introduction for the moon-dominated nakshatras, because although each of these are different, they are all ruled by the moon. And because of that, they will have some common characteristics. First of all, the moon is the most feminine energy in the zodiac, pretty much, and alongside Venus. So this energy is, the moon has to do with sensitivity, perceptiveness, passive energy. Receptiveness is the key. So this is a very absorbent energy. It's one that wants to receive rather than give. It's very introspective. It rules imagination, creativity. You need to think of both the moon and the sun as being very creative forces, but the moon is feminine creativity and the sun is masculine creativity. So think about the moon as kind of like the nurturing side of creativity. This is the fertile ground of creation. This is, these are people who, the people who are very moon-dominated or have a lot of planets in moon-dominated nakshatras. These are people who really give birth to great ideas, and they nurture great ideas into fruition. They have that ability. And it's also why, the moon is literally ruling the uterus in medical astrology, the womb. So this is like, these people are very nurturing, and also moon being the most feminine, vulnerable, receptive energy out there, it deals with all kinds of subtleties. It's healing, it's nurturing, it deals more with influence rather than direct power. So these people's powers lie in their ability to influence others, not so much in their direct orders, let's say, or you know what I'm saying, like direct power on others. It's more these people can subtly influence somebody to get what they want from them, or to determine people to behave in a way that they want them to. think of like Inception, which ironically was where Leonardo DiCaprio, a famous moon-dominated nakshatra native, was playing the lead role. But actually, both him and what's her name, Marion Cotillard, yeah, he has moon in Hasta, and she has, I think, sun in Hasta. You're gonna see their photos in the video when I get to the Hasta nakshatra. But yeah, this was a small parenthesis. So these were just a few things that I wanted to say. Another thing that I have heard, which I don't know if again, this is maybe a little bit of a controversial thing to say, but I have heard the theory that moon-dominated people tend to be a little bit narcissistic. So with all of these nakshatras, and there are 3 of them that are dominated by the moon, the moon signifies also the mind. In Vedic astrology, it is the single most important signifier of a person's personality, basic way of thinking, etc. So maybe because of that, it is said to be narcissistic. People tend to be self-absorbed with these nakshatras. They tend to be selfish, but in my opinion, this is also because, being such a feminine nakshatras, they want to receive, they want to be on the receiving end. And you're going to see once I get a little bit more in depth with each nakshatra, but basically people who are very feminine, they don't want to work hard. That's the truth, So these people, they want to be spoiled, they want to be taken care of. They oftentimes are very charming and very beautiful physically as well, or at least very charismatic, even if they're not physically beautiful. So they are used to being pampered, and they expect to be pampered. So maybe that's why I have heard some people, some astrologers, and I have read some articles that say these nakshatras tend to be a little bit narcissistic, quote unquote. But, of course I would not venture to say that everybody who has these nakshatras is a narcissist. You have to look at overall behavior and overall astrological profile. And also another thing that you will notice is that like I have mentioned before, also in the video that I will link in the description, there are 3 basic modes of operation, or ganas, in Vedic astrology, and those are demon or rakshasa, human or manushya, and godly or deva ganas. And all of these 3 moon-dominated nakshatras are falling into the deva category, or the godly category, which kind of tells you that, the moon, and this is because, the moon is a very soft, gentle, wouldn't harm a fly kind of energy at its core. But it does have its own little defenses, most of which are indirect methods of defense, because again, it's a very feminine energy, and it's definitely not the kind of nakshatra or the kind of energy that you will associate with being, violent or angry or that kind of thing. But like I said, this doesn't mean that they're completely defenseless. I just thought it was a cool thing to notice that all of them are in the deva category. Okay, so to get into individual descriptions, Rohini Nakshatra, so the first of the moon-dominated nakshatras, as you can probably see on the screen, it spans from 10 degrees to 23 degrees and 20 minutes Taurus in the sidereal zodiac, 6 degrees to 90 degrees, 20 minutes Gemini in tropical zodiac. So, like I mentioned before, I use sidereal coupled with whole sign system because this is what I find to be most accurate. Now, you can use other systems, and you can use a tropical if you really believe that it works, but I would not vouch for the accuracy of interpretations if you use that. Okay. The symbol of this nakshatra, right, I also think I mention this, it's translated as the reddish one. The symbol is a ox-drawn cart or a chariot. The ruling deity, this comes from like the Hindu gods, Brahma, god of creation. They are, let me see. It's also a female nakshatra, which you would expect being ruled by the moon, but not all of them are female nakshatras. The ruling animal is the male serpent, or the yoni, as it's called in Vedic astrology. This is important for compatibility, but also just the basic nature of a person. Its element is earth, the associated bird is owl, the associated color is white. It is said to possess great charisma, so the natives are said to possess great charisma, materialism, creativity. It is, being in Taurus, it is co-ruled by Venus, which means that feminine energy is extremely high in Rohini. Actually, Rohini, how you've heard this sometimes, I've heard tropical astrologers say, like, there's so many artists being born in Gemini. Yeah, well, that's because Rohini covers a significant portion of Gemini and tropical astrology, and Rohini happens to be possibly the most creative, the most, not just creative, but artistic nakshatra. One of the most artistic nakshatras, if not the most artistic. There are so many artists who, have this nakshatra, and, who are very famous, mostly for their charm, for their beauty, for their talent, especially in acting and music. There are so many of them who have moon or sun or the ascendant in Rohini, as you will see some examples on the screen. And right, so it's extremely receptive, it's extremely feminine, it's a very lush kind of energy. Think of, blossoming meadow full of flowers and Ferdinand the Bull sort of enjoying himself. It's that kind of an energy. It's very, being ruled by Moon and Venus, it's a very feminine, very very comfort oriented sort of energy. Natives oftentimes are very devoted to family, they're very gentle, they are financially savvy, and they're very motivated by money. They're motivated by materialism. And another thing that I can say is that these people, so if you have one of your nakshatra, one of your spouse-related nakshatras to be Rohini, this is a person that usually is going to attract a lot of envy, especially if you're a man. And let's say you have Venus in Rohini, you're going to attract the kind of woman that is, other men are going to envy you for your spouse, because they're going to be so good looking, so either they're going to be very good looking, or at the very least they're going to be charismatic, charming, very pleasant. Venus is also going to be pretty strong in Rohini, so you're going to be a happy guy if you have Venus in Rohini, because you're going to get a beautiful wife. And if you're a woman and your signifiers are in Rohini, you're also going to get, very likely going to get a husband that is handsome and good with money. These people tend to attract wealth. Like, they tend to also be themselves very, because like I said, they are interested in making money, so they can be very, business savvy, so they can start their own businesses. But especially since the moon is also connected to things like shipping, commerce, transport, connecting people, that kind of thing. Vodka connecting people. Kidding. But it's the moon is connected to commerce as well, and shipping and distribution and that kind of thing. So I actually know a few people who have a strong Rohini influence, and they're always looking for things like bargains, and even when they are doing well financially, they are very clever about these things. They're interested in investments and how to multiply their money. And so if your spouse nakshatra happens to be Rohini, you're probably going to attract a partner who is quite well off financially, and or good looking. So usually for men, they're going to be both good looking and financially savvy. The problem with this nakshatra is that, well, not the problem, but the tendency here is, obviously there will be a little bit of a tendency, not necessarily towards infidelity, but it's going to be difficult for you to it might bring the insecurity of the person who has this as a spouse nakshatra, because these people usually are swarming with admirers. And the big no-no with this nakshatra is taking these natives for granted. So more than with any other nakshatra, because like I said, this is a very feminine energy, very receptive. These people expect to be given things. They want to be loved. They want to be pampered. They need to be complimented. They know that they're good looking. Oftentimes they the Rohini Nakshatra is one of those nakshatras that makes, the show-stopping, traffic-stopping, good-looking women. Particularly women who have really pretty eyes. Like, there's something about the eyes. Because the whole legend of Rohini was something about Rohini was the favorite wife of the moon, and he neglected all the other wives for this favorite wife because she was the prettiest or something like that. And Rohini natives are said to have very beautiful eyes. So, like, especially if you're somebody who has moon in Rohini, or to a lesser extent the ascendant or sun, usually there's something, the eye area is the prettiest. But overall they tend to be very good looking, because the moon also rules the face in Vedic astrology. So people with moon in Rohini, you will see this, that they often are very pretty. And they are, like I said, being very feminine. They are used to receiving things. They are used to being on the receiving end of things. They expect people to give them what they want, especially if they're women. And, it's kind of like, I actually used to joke about this, because, like, if you're a guy and you want a traditional woman, be careful what you wish for, because these are the hardest to please, and, you always have to be on your toes. You have to be very careful not to take them for granted, because if you forget to compliment them for a few months in a row, you don't bring them gifts, you don't do things for them, they will tend to start having, wandering eyes. And other people will come over and offer them things and compliment them and all this stuff. And they're very comfort loving, very easy life loving kind of people. And especially if you're a man and you have your spouse nakshatra in Rohini, you should take into account the fact that your wife will, or your romantic partner will really want you to give her the good life. They want to be pampered. Like I said, they want as much comfort, as much even luxury as possible. And this is how they feel loved and they feel appreciated. So typical professions or activities that are normally associated with Rohini are anything to do with land, because again, Taurus, like I said, the blossoming meadow, or the, what I'm saying, like, think of something like that. So they're also connected to earth, fertility. Earth is, the earth in itself is seen as a mother energy, because it's about nurturing, it's growing food, and it's all this stuff. So you can see professions connected to agriculture, farming, botanists of all kinds, so florists, people who love flowers, because flowers are a very Venus thing. Anybody connected to the food industry, musicians, entertainment industry, beauticians, sex therapists, jewelers, gemstone dealers. Gemstone dealer is probably, I was going to say it's probably a thing in Indian society, but it's actually a thing everywhere, I think. Crystal dealers, that kind of thing. Interior decorators, bankers, or people who work with money directly, like I said, in commerce, tourism, textile, shipping, distribution. Also, professions connected to aquatic stuff, water, liquids, and anything aquatic. Aquatic stuff is actually a thing that you could see with any of these nakshatras, because the moon rules the seas. So famous Rohini moons, a few famous Rohini moons, because I have also made a collection of photos on the screen. A few famous Rohini moons are Queen Victoria, Barack Obama, Charlie Chaplin. Right. And now, moving on to the second nakshatra, which is Hasta nakshatra, or translated as the hand or the fist, quote unquote. And right, the symbol is a bright jewel or a pearl. It spans from around 23 degrees Virgo, 23 degrees and 20 minutes Virgo, to about 6 degrees 40 minutes Libra in the sidereal zodiac, and from about 6 degrees Libra to about 19 degrees and 20 minutes Libra in tropical zodiac. And this is where it becomes, so this nakshatra is co-ruled by Mercury. And this is where the moon and Mercury meet together. And this nakshatra is also called the nakshatra of inventors. This is really one of the most creative, brilliant nakshatras out there. These people are very intelligent. And you're going to see people who are both artistic and also very, very intelligent. I think Tesla, the man himself, had Moon in Hasta. So they are literally the most intelligent. I mean, maybe not the most, but they are incredibly creative, because, like I said, Moon is about creativity. You know, it's fertility of the mind. Literally, that's what you would expect, especially with somebody who has Moon in Hasta. And Mercury adds that, you know, analytical, logical touch as well, and makes them good at figuring out creative solutions to concrete everyday problems. Right, so some other data about it is the ruling deity is called Savitar, and it is seen as an expression of the sun. So there's also a little bit of a touch of the sun here. This is probably why it is also called incredibly creative and the nakshatra of inventors. The Gana, again, is Deva, like I said. The element is fire. The nature is said to be light and swift. The associated bird is the vulture, which, you know, kind of makes you think of something that is light and swift, because it is, you know, focused on targeting something and ripping it to shreds. And the color associated is deep green. The animal, or the yoni, is the female buffalo. And let me see what else. Right, so because it is, as you can see from the fact that it is symbolized by, it is translated into the hand or the fist, this nakshatra is connected to literally any activities that are to do with the hands-on activities. Anything to do with, you know, like manual labor, for instance. Anything like carpentry, jewelry makers, craftsmanship. All of these things are symbolized by Hasta, because they have to do with hands-on activities. And like I said, so co-ruled by Mercury gives a communicative, attractive nature. Natives are going to be clever, creative, and witty, you know, very pleasant, very charismatic. And they tend to attain wealth later in life. They can be influential, cordial, have a strong interest in service. They can be industrious, persuasive, unattached emotionally, and tend to have multiple relationships. This is kind of like a thing. This nakshatra tends to have a scattered energy when it comes to relationships because of the influence of Mercury. It gives people a kind of a Peter Pan wandering eye, and they tend to get bored easily. And being so charismatic oftentimes and good looking, again, there is kind of a tendency towards infidelity and problems here with this nakshatra. And it also is connected to magic tricks and all kinds of deception, actually. I so laughed when I made some research on this nakshatra, did some research, because Leonardo DiCaprio has Moon in Hasta, and remember he played that role in Catch Me If You Can, and that entire movie was basically about a guy who was just tricking everybody, and, you know, basically forged his entire existence, you know, went around from one scam to another. And yeah, so he was a master trickster. And also I don't remember actually even I think Hugh Jackman was in the Hasta, or maybe I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe he was Shravana. Anyway, because when I read the tendency for magic tricks, I immediately thought of The Prestige. You know what I'm saying? I should have checked if any of the actors there had prominent Hasta placements. But I'm pretty sure that Hugh Jackman was either Hasta or Shravana. I'm not sure. Anyway. So yeah, this nakshatra is also connected to magic tricks and unfortunately things like forgery. So another thing that I read is that when the moon is in Hasta, you should be careful about signing documents or signing contracts, because there could be a tendency to be tricked into things. Just a fun fact. Right, so if your relationship or your spouse nakshatra is Hasta, or one of them is Hasta, typical professions that you can expect your spouse to have is, like I said, anything that is hands-on, to do with dexterity, artisans, jewelry makers, manual labor, inventors, publishers, manicurists, auctioneers, things to do with pottery, ceramics, interior decoration, gardener, magicians, thieves, hairstylists, sculptors, philanthropists, carpenters, accountants, typists, housekeepers, textile industry connected activities, tarot readers, healers. Oh yeah, that's another thing. This nakshatra is very good at healing. So this could be conventional medicine, or it can be Reiki, or, homeopathy, especially, again, any kind of healer that is hands-on, chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapy, anything to do with the hands. And, yeah, also housekeepers, so, yeah, or people who are doing, house cleaning services, textile industry. Yeah, I did mention this, right? Okay, physical therapist mentioned this. And some of the connected sports, of course, with this nakshatra are sports that are very hand or arm focused, like ping pong, tennis, gymnasts, volleyball, all that kind of stuff. Some famous people include Rudolph Valentino, Jimmy Carter, Burt Reynolds, Richard Burton, Robert Duvall. Yeah. Okay. So, Shravana Nakshatra. Or, wait, did I say everything that I wanted to say? Yeah, well, the only thing that I can say about, I think I pretty much said everything that is key about Hasta. So, they tend to be very intelligent, they tend to be well off, very charismatic, and, very creative, definitely. And yeah, connected to hands-on activities. That's pretty much the gist of it. And now moving on to Shravana, which is the last but not least of the moon-dominated nakshatras, translated as hearing, or the one who limps, and this is connected to the ruling deity Vishnu, and it's some legend connected to Vishnu. It's symbolized by the ear or 3 footprints, also connected to Vishnu, the 3 footprints. Right, so deity being Vishnu, the god of preserving an heir. It's also called the star of learning ear. The animal or the yoni is the female monkey, the Gana again, Deva. Gender is male, so this is interesting. This is the only male nakshatra in the 3 moon-dominated nakshatras. Element is air. The associated bird is francolin, which I don't even know what it looks like. But okay. The color is associated is light blue. And it is co-ruled by Saturn, which is something to bear in mind, because see, this is probably the most self-motivated nakshatra. Maybe not self-motivated, that's not the word. The most goal-oriented nakshatra, kind of go-getterish, because the other 2, were more receptive, being more, well, especially Rohini, which is ruled by Moon and co-ruled by Venus, so it's very feminine, very receptive. With Hasta, it's co-ruled by Mercury, so there's a touch of masculinity there. There's a touch more detachment, more mercurial energy. But, with Hasta, another thing that I should have said is that the thing about detachment can be a thing. They can detach too easily, which is also why there's a risk of infidelity, but whatever. I should have mentioned that. And, in Shravana, it is co-ruled by Saturn. Saturn in itself is not a feminine planet. It's actually not a masculine planet. In fact, both Mercury and Saturn are seen as somewhat androgynous, but the accurate perspective is that Mercury represents the prepubescent child who is not sexual yet. So this is why Mercury is said to bring an androgynous energy, because they don't care about sex. See, because they are children and they care more about, playing tricks and having fun, which is also why you see Hasta being a trickster. And Shravana, being co-ruled by Saturn, Saturn is the old man or the old woman. So there are people who are too old to care about sex or dating. This is why they are seen to not be sexual. So unlike the other planets, which are either feminine or masculine, these two are seen as, quote, eunuch planets. And this is because, Saturn is, it has that wisdom of the seasoned old man who has been through a lot and now they want to rest or something. But it also has that energy of somebody who's very experienced, has been through a lot, and they are, very no-nonsense kind of people. So Shravana is considered to be the star of learning and listening. It's seen to be very receptive, very serious, linked to having good memory, a great ability to retain information. This is also why they make good teachers. They're very attentive to detail, they are very rational and very determined in setting and achieving their goals. Because remember, the moon is the mind. So people who have moon in Shravana, they tend to be very kind of, what's the word? Well, I guess determined, yeah. They can also be very single-minded, like once they lock into a goal, they go after it. And they tend to live a modest, meaning unassuming life, but they tend to be prosperous nevertheless. They can be very ambitious and disciplined and very patient, because Saturn is also about patience. They tend to create a good married life in their relationship, so this is good news for you if you have your spouse influenced by Shravana. They tend to be creative, but in a very pragmatic way. Ethical, contemplative, drawn to working for social and humanitarian causes, tend to have success in foreign lands, or they are drawn to foreign travel. They are very articulate when they speak, and they are generally well-liked. Actually, all of the Moon Nakshatras are generally well-liked, because the moon is also about popularity. I should have mentioned this at the beginning as well. Professions connected to this nakshatra are, like I said, professions connected to teachers, linguists, speech therapists, translators, educators of all kinds, politicians, geologists. This is probably because of the influence from Saturn, which is ruling rocks. Telephone operators, preserving traditions, anything to do with preserving traditions and history. Teachers, music industry, news broadcasters, talk show hosts, counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists, astrologers, radio operators, transport industry, tourism, healing, again, especially holistic medicine, and any kind of general medical professions, actually, charity workers. I haven't written down any of the famous people with Shravana, but I did make a lot of... write a lot of examples on the screen. So, yeah, I mean, what I can say about Shravana is, like I said, that these people tend to be really the more pragmatic-oriented of the three moon-dominated nakshatras. They tend to be very ambitious, very self-contained, introverted, and more kind of no nonsense than the other two nakshatras. And they're more, the word is ambitious, there's no other word for it, so they're more interested in social status and that kind of thing. But at the same time, you know, they tend to be modest, so not prideful in any way. So yeah, if your spouse is influenced by Shravana, it is definitely, you're definitely going to be one of the lucky ones. Right. So another thing that I can say about all of these, so all of these, if you've noticed, I think I mentioned at the beginning as well, they're described to be quite good looking. So I guess if your spouse is influenced by one of these nakshatras, you are among the lucky ones who's going to get a good looking spouse. And also being ruled by the moon, they tend to be good at compromising and keeping the peace in a relationship. So, and they're also going to be nurturing. So yeah, they're definitely going to be good spouse material or partner material. So this has been it. And once again, if you have enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment in the comment section if you found it useful, if you have any suggestions or any questions, or yeah, anything you want to share. And also please hit the notifications bell to see when I'll post a new video. And if you're interested in a personal consultation, please check out the video description. I will leave the information there. Thank you.